Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the It's Just Coffee podcast. I'm Kirk Pearson.
I'm Liam Conroy.
Filling in for Rowan Cook, who's on a work junket today. Can you believe it?
Running away
again. On one of the best days, we had an impromptu opportunity to get an interview. One I've been trying to get for a while now, haven't I?
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's introduce to the It's Just Coffee podcast, Olympic gold medalist, Zac Stubblety-Cook.
Yeah,
boy. Now, Zac, I've interviewed you before for a previous podcast that I had.
We don't talk about that.
I mean, why not? It was fine. I mean, but it was, that was during COVID. I think were you in Japan at the time?
I think I was in Darwin, quarantine.
Quarantine.
Yeah.
How weird to think back then.
I was in Darwin 2 weeks ago and I was like, why is this place? And I was like, oh, that's right.
Darwin's
I was in Darwin.
Darwin's actually got a pretty good hospitality scene.
Yeah.
So there's a great shop up there called Copy Stop. That's Kopi. Did you go there when you were there?
No, we went to a Padre, a brand new one in a little arcade that we found.
Yeah.
It was open early in the morning. So
yeah, Darwin, if those of you out, abroad, is in the northernmost part of Australia, in the Northern Territory. Very low.
A long way from everywhere.
A long way from everywhere. Quite, very, very hot, very tropical.
Yeah, it was 37 degrees and 80% humidity when I was there that weekend.
That's where the things that kill you are. The crocodiles, the snakes. That's
no swimming.
No swimming, yeah. Well, not during summer anyway. So, but there's saltwater crocodiles, which is bizarre. But anyhow, welcome to the show. So glad to have you on. We always start off with a bit of coffee news. I'm gonna do a wee bit of coffee news, and then we'll get into the interview. Liam, you ready?
Let's go.
All right, first piece of coffee news. Sorry,
I was going to jump in. We didn't chat about the coffee.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Jump the gun.
First piece of coffee news, not related to coffee at all. Metallica is coming to Australia. So they've re-announced their tour. Last time James Hetfield had to unfortunately go into rehab, so he wasn't able to come. But are you a Metallica man?
Absolutely.
Oh, man. What's your favorite Metallica song?
Enter Sandman. Come on.
For me, it's Unforgiven 3, which is more of a niche one for people listening in. If you're not a Metallica fan, or you are but don't know that song, it's one of my favorite. And Spit Out the Bone as well. So good. All right, but an actual piece of coffee news. The news is the new boss of Starbucks has pledged to shake up its overly complex menu in an effort to turn around the struggling coffee chain. So Brian Niccol, who joined the company as chief executive in September, said Starbucks needed to fundamentally change its strategy in order to win back customers. The coffee chain reported falling sales, revenue, and profit in the fourth quarter amid weak demand in its US home market and in China, highlighting the challenges facing its new boss. That story comes by The Guardian. Have you been across this story about this guy becoming the CEO?
Oh, really?
So he was the CEO of Chipotle, and he's got a salary package worth up to $100 million US a year to turn around Starbucks. Now, Starbucks struggling in China is not surprising because they've got Luckin Coffee. Have you heard of Luckin Coffee? They'll probably throw a whole bunch of money at you to be an ambassador after listening to this podcast. But there's also, I think, there's some connection between the global conflict going on right now. And so I think that's one of the reasons for their sales struggling, because they're actually seeing an increase in sales in Australia because there's this cold drink revolution. So Starbucks is more popular than ever in Australia, but for whatever reason, they can't seem to grow in America. So,
interesting.
Which is interesting because I think we had Damien Coe on the other day, and it's like they've got so many drinks. And I think in America, there's obviously they're much more popular, but they've got they've got an issue where you can order on the app, but because of that, the wait times are just ballooned in the shops and it's harder for the staff to deliver. Starbucks, if you need a consultant and, you got the checkbook open, I'm available. Just email. What's the email again? Hello at
itsjustcoffeepod.com.
I charge a lot. But anyhow, Liam preluded to before, this wonderful coffee we're drinking. This tastes like bubblegum, and I think you said watermelon sour straps. This is a whack coffee. What is this coffee?
This is nitro coffee. So this is last month's coffee. So September's coffee. There's still some available on our website, sapidusroast.com.au.
Well, let's get into that. So
yeah, come on.
We'll get into the Olympic gold medal part in a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. But you have your own coffee roasting business called Sapidus Roast. Now, I did a bit of research the other day. Sapidus, the word for delicious in Latin. Correct, Mundo?
Yes.
All right. So tell us a little about Sapidus.
Direct-to-consumer coffee business, rotating single every month at the moment. And we're going to launch some filter bags as well as some gift packs for Christmas as well. So if you have a special someone who loves coffee, jump on board. They'll be available probably in November, December time. But this coffee we're drinking today is a nitrogen processed coffee that is as soon as we tasted it, we knew we had to have it on the menu. It's unbelievable.
Off air, I asked you, is there any green left I can buy?
Yeah. And it's an incredible coffee, and anyone that tastes it just is mind blown and doesn't like a lot of people. We enjoy kind of our brand is wanting to get people out into these realm of filter coffee and showcase what it can taste like. Because for us, like you tasting that, even as someone that's tasted a lot of interesting coffees, goes, wow, like how good is that? But
it's unbelievable. And I had someone kind of call me out in person recently, saying that I've changed because I use a lot of co-fermented coffee. And as you said, I've tasted a lot of coffees. I've served a lot of coffees, and but for whatever reason, like these coffees, serving them to the general punter and seeing them enjoy it is so much more enjoyable than making like a Panama geisha and having some coffee enthusiast enjoy it. Like the thrill I get from that is so much greater. And
it's showcasing what coffee can taste like. This is the fringe of it, obviously. And I think it's almost like the coffee world's a bit divided on that co-ferment style of stuff.
Yeah.
And, for me and our brand, it's exciting because it's like it just brings more people in. And I think that's our point of view, it just brings more people into the world of coffee and showcases what it can taste like, because the likelihood of them tasting this and then getting into filter coffee and then getting it into a Panama geisha is, it's one step away, but this is the gateway.
I want to pause that conversation because we'll get back into it in a bit, but in order for the story to understand, the listener to understand this podcast, I think we need to tell the story of Zac Stubblety-Cook. So if you could just pick up some of that hardware you've got there. So that's his most recent piece. So that's an Olympic silver medal earned at the Paris Olympic Games.
Absolutely.
All right. Now let's pick up the big dog. All right. That is an Olympic gold medal from the Tokyo Olympic Games in the breaststroke.
200 meters.
200 meter breaststroke. All right. So we have here an Olympic gold medalist within our ranks, which I think is awesome. And I guess for the first part of the podcast, we'll talk a little bit about swimming. Then we'll get into the coffee stuff. At what age did you actually start swimming competitively? Because I was doing a bit of research on you, and I won't spoil the answer, but at what age did you start, and at what point did you think, well, I take this seriously enough to want to do it for my profession?
Yeah, I mean, like 6 years old, I can recall being petrified of the water and like wanting to swim because all my mates were swimming and enjoying swimming, and Friday night club night was always there, and swimming the half lap was kind of the thing that actually got me into the pool. And I swam the half lap, closed my eyes because I was so scared, and ended up hitting my head on the wall at the
half
other
lap.
end.
That means
like 12 meters.
Okay.
And I was petrified of doing that, right?
Yeah.
And that's as a 6-year-old, so year one, back in the day. And then fast forward 3 years from there, like Friday night club night after night, weekend after weekend. And then 9 years old, I was telling a story today actually, and it was like, I swam at states, made nationals, flew all the way to Perth for a 44-second race as a 9-year-old. And like looking back, I'm like, what were my parents thinking? Like, like I'm so grateful for that opportunity. But like looking back, I'm like, we flew 6 hours for a 40-second race. Like,
Well,
at 9 years old, sure, it's paid off now.
You think of Noah Lyles, the Olympic gold medal sprinter. It's like he trains his whole life for a 12-second race or whatever it is. I think it's even quicker. 10 seconds? Is that how long? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's just under 9, just under 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's incredible. But I went to school with some competitive swimmers, and they were always kind of the most diligent in everything that I knew, because they got up at like 4:30, 5 a.m. as a high schooler, like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 mornings a week. And then they go train. And mind you, this is in the winter time, and, you know, you're from Queensland, so it's a bit warmer up there. But in New South Wales, it can get reasonably cold. And so they're doing all this, and they were always fit. They always were great runners as well in long distance format because, you know, the breath work and all that sort of stuff. So were you like that too? Like, was your routine regimented at that? At that age?
I wasn't probably a jack of all trades. I was much more niche into swimming for a very long time. Probably from 9 years old, I was swimming at least 5 times a week, and then probably once I was 14, 15, it was 9 times a week, and then now it's 10 or 11.
Wow.
But like, yeah, as you said, through high school, it was definitely, I've been training actually at my old high school program a couple of times a week at the moment while I'm on break, and like getting there at 5:10 again. And I'm like, I don't know how I did this for 6 years. I was, arriving at literally 5 a.m. and leaving school at 7 p.m. So that was my schedule. It was arrive, train for 2 hours in the morning, and then go to school all day, and then train in the afternoon till about 7 p.m. And it was like, I actually, looking back, don't know how I did it, but it was very regimented, but it was definitely supported very well too.
And what's the impact on your body of swimming? Because my understanding is it's a lot easier on your body than running and stuff like that. But do you get injuries or like wearing down?
Yeah, I definitely have injuries. Like the last 12 months have probably been a very testing 12 months of injury. Like I've had, so the day I left for Paris, I had both my knees injected with cortisone and a gel to settle them down because I had a bit of bone bruising and some cracked cartilage.
How did you do that?
Just wear and tear. Just
from swimming?
Just overuse, yeah. When you're swimming,
I suppose because you
60K a week.
So what's the motion with breaststroke? So you're going with your shoulders like this,
yeah,
and then kicking quite forcefully with your legs.
So kicking like in a weird externally rotated hip and knee angle. So your knee and hip has a lot of pressure on it, and it's a weird stroke that is not very natural.
All right, so you're getting, so from a young age, you're practicing swimming. You start winning some competitions, obviously. Then you qualify for what would be the national competitions, thereby getting to Olympic qualifiers as well.
Yeah. So, the way that kind of works is the progression of that is you kind of, as you progress as an age grouper, you're swimming at that age level, and then you progress to an open level when you turn about 16, 17. You start swimming in open competitions, so against everyone from all ages. And then once you're 18, you're in that full stop. So for me, it was always like age nationals, school nationals up until I was about 16. And then from there progressed into open kind of championships. And Rio was the first Olympic trials I went to, which was an awesome experience. And
so how old were you when you were trying?
So I was 17 then. Yeah.
Okay. Right. And so the point where you get to qualifying for Tokyo, so that's the 2020, which occurred in 2021. So you were 21 when you competed? 21 years old. 22 years old when you competed at that competition. What was it like I want to know a bit about your psychology preparing for those qualifiers and preparing for the Olympics, and what was your mindset like?
I guess like COVID was a very different games to Paris. I think like looking back at Tokyo, you almost have to rewind like a year before that, because we were 8 weeks out of our Olympic trials. It was about 8 weeks, and the games got cancelled. Well, the Australian government basically said, ScoMo said at the time, we're not sending an Australian team to the Olympics. And that was like, I was in the pool when that happened, and I got out and had like 4 missed calls and an email from Sumoz saying, we're not able to send a team to the Olympics.
What's your immediate reaction to that? Because like you've done all this preparation, you just hop out of a hard swim. What's your immediate reaction when you heard that?
I think it's like just like pure loss. It's just like, I don't know what to do with myself now, because that was all your direction. and like all of a sudden it's just like pulled away and you have nothing in you. At that point in time, we didn't actually know whether it would actually go ahead because we were in that global pandemic, rolling lockdowns, and Melbourne was terrible for it. But Queensland, we were a bit better and it was a bit easier up in Queensland. Like we only had 6 weeks out of the water, really. I know Melbourne had a lot longer. So for us, like, yeah, it was just a bit of like loss. And I think like once the games were then re-announced that it'd be a year later, there was definitely much more hope. And then our ability to train kind of changed and the goalposts just shifted. It was less about like whether we were going to do it. It was more about, okay, now the goalposts have just shifted away from 2020 July to 2021 July. And for me personally, like that definitely gave me more scope to relax into a bit more of other things in my life, not just swimming, but also being able to study a bit more and have a bit more balance and focus towards that games, because I think the pressure was really building into 2020 and I had a really good year in 2019, probably didn't have as much focus into 2020 but was able to have that opportunity to refocus into 2021. So
let's fast forward to the part where now you're going to the Olympics. What's a week like? Just summarize as best you can. What's a week like in preparing for an Olympic Games?
The week,
like say for example, you're at the facility, and like what are you doing in preparation for your swim?
Nothing. Like honestly,
so
like
recovering your body, sort of thing.
Just like literally, like if you looked at our week and I guess what we're doing during the day, it's like I was doing Lego in the village and watching Netflix.
Mm-hmm. And now let's inject a bit of coffee into this. So where does coffee fit in to your Olympic routine? Because as I understand, you were probably the go-to guy for coffee in the Olympic Village, among swimmers at least.
Yeah.
So what was your routine around that?
So in Tokyo, I had a frozen setup. So we were in quarantine. So I had frozen maybe 1 kilo or 2 kilos of coffee.
So that's freezing doses of coffee so that you can prepare it later and it still tastes just as good.
So I dosed that out in quarantine because we had to isolate pre and post. So we had 2 weeks beforehand. So I'd ordered a lot of coffee into cans where we were staging and then frozen it all and then taken it to Tokyo. So for me, then we just put it in the freezer in the room. And
were people just looking at you, like other athletes just looking at you like, what on earth are you doing?
I mean, some people were like, what the hell are you doing? And then like, for example, Cam McAvoy, I like gave him some or made him a coffee one day. And
the professor?
The professor. And he was like, oh, I get it now. Like, it was just like an instant thing where he understood it. And it was like, oh, I didn't realize it could taste like that. Or,
I actually remember Cody Simpson. So you know Cody Simpson, the singer, so also professional swimmer. And I remember him posting a story about some of your beans and he had like a bag of Coffee Collective, something, a Takeshi Geisha it might have been, that you had. And he's like, oh, Zach's always packing. That was pretty interesting to see.
I want to know before that though. So like, you had this frozen setup. What led to the frozen setup?
2018 was the start of my coffee journey.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of the back end of high school, definitely like relying on caffeine to survive through those massive, 12-hour days. So for me, it was always that. And then it was like, okay, how can I make this taste good? And it was an AeroPress and a Bellissimo bean from a local roaster in Brizzy. And then kind of started getting into filter, and then a mate of mine roasts up the Sunshine Coast as well. So he kind of pushed me into that filter. And then 2021, I was like, traveling a bit and trying to seek out cool coffees. And then 2022 met Carlos and Simon for their World Brewers Cup tour of Oz and got to taste
Carlos Escobar and Simon Gawthron.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some that coffee is unbelievable. I still have some frozen.
What was that coffee, sorry?
Their World Brewster Championship coffee.
Oh, the Thermo Shock Geisha from Finca El Paraiso.
Yeah.
That was the one that we spoke about in that podcast with Craig Simon.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I still have some 3 doses.
Megatron, we call that.
Yeah. It's
Megatron.
Unbelievable coffee. So that was kind of what sparked the interest into like some interesting experimental coffees. And then, then traveling wherever we do, like we always try and find cool different shops like Motors in Paris, Nomad in Barcelona. Like Paris at Motors is unbelievable. Like their filter menu, I remember going with Cody, Emma, and a bunch of the other swimmers and sitting down and ordering one of their whole frozen menu and just showcasing, and like Cody and Emma and Jenna and Sam and Mac were like, I didn't know coffee could taste like this.
Which
these are all professional swimmers, by the way, he's mentioning. Sorry, go on, Liam.
No, I was just going to say, like when you go in there, you're looking at a menu. What kind of what inspires you? What do you look for? Looking from what you've brought in, the funkier the better, yeah. Or...
Yeah, big, bold, funky, different coffees. I think like I enjoy those tea-like geishas, but that's for me. It's not as interesting. I think like for me, I'm more interested in something that's really unique and different, and sometimes that does fail. Like I've had coffees that do taste like Vegemite or tomato, and you're like,
yeah,
it could have been really cool, but or it sounded really cool, but it just didn't work. But it's really cool to see people push that boundary.
Do you think it's like kind of an element of release from you? Because obviously you've got you're a busy guy, you train a lot. And do you think it's kind of like a sort of a release for you to have this hobby of coffee, like something to take your mind off swimming a little bit?
Yeah, and I'm very process orientated in whatever I do. And like filter's one of those things where you can fully nerd and geek out on water and all sorts of bits and pieces. So for me, that's definitely
say, for example, we've got a young budding swimmer who's like, I've stumbled across Zac on a podcast. It just so happens to be about coffee. He or she could be 16 years old. Pitch to them why drinking coffee and making it is good.
I think for me, personally, it's about process and enjoying a little escape. So for me, it's always like the first thing I do when I'm competing, and when I travel with a kit that's very similar to home. So for me, it's like also a creature comfort. I'll even travel with a mug most of the time nowadays to keep that consistency of like something in my life when I'm traveling that's really consistent. So for me, that's what it is all about. And it's about the community as well and the conversations around it, like sharing a coffee with someone and the conversation that often happens with that is, yeah.
We've touched on this in a few podcasts now, is that more and more people globally are just getting interested in coffee. Like it's not just the instant now. There's more and more people are looking for something better. They're quite capable of brewing it themselves. And there's I was having a really long, hard think about this today. There's kind of like an innovation wave. Like coffee's you might have heard this terminology, but there's been a first, second and third wave of specialty coffee. And we're kind of going through a fourth one now, but I don't think I'll call it a fourth wave. I think I'll call it an innovation wave. There's just so much good equipment for home use now.
Yeah.
We've got this machine back here. And there's so many good machines in coffee for home, but also commercially. And the stuff that's happening commercially is just nuts. There's never been a better time to get into coffee than there is now, really.
And the travel setups now, I've distilled mine down to quite a small setup, and it's awesome. Like it's literally a bag.
I was about to say, like, what is your setup? Like you said before, you're an AeroPress man.
Yeah, used to be, not anymore.
Used to be.
Yeah.
V60?
No, I have an Aurea for travel because I can press the filters, so I can take a flat filter. Because I've always used like Kalita Wave was my first dripper.
What's the Aurea? What was it?
It's a UK brand, and it's just like you 3D print the press, I guess it is, and you're literally using a flat filter.
It's like a tall, almost cylindrical brewer.
Yeah.
And with like long...
a flatbed still. Yeah.
Flatbed, but they're like bigger, more floppy papers. They're kind of harder to align the papers, right?
Yeah, but the press helps for sure. And for me, when I travel with it, I don't like traveling with Kalita filters because they just get bent and destroyed.
Yeah.
And then I'll have a Comandante and a little set of scales as well. And then, whatever. I typically actually travel with like one bag of coffee, and then wherever I go, I'll order coffee. So I'll because we're traveling for example, at Paris, I ordered DAC, fried hats, Manhattan, a fair bit of Manhattan coffee. So like, it's nice to be able to order those European roasters because we don't often get them here.
Yeah. Well, there's a few people that bring it in, but it's probably not as good as getting it in Europe because, once it travels and stuff like that, it's a little bit older.
Yeah, like Manhattan, it was shipped the next day. So
but they're pretty good. Like it's so hard to ship coffee from Australia because, I don't know, everything's just harder in Australia. But in Europe and the US, they seem to just like jettison it and get it here quick. I want to talk about Sapidus a little bit. So you're roasting a little bit of filter now. You've got some plans for doing, you were just saying as we introduced the pod, you want to do some more sort of almost ready to go stuff like drip bags. You elaborate on that?
Yeah, so we're looking into some drip bags, and hopefully November, December time, we'll have some drip bags available. So for us, we want to make this coffee really accessible. So, not everyone has a filter set up at home, but we can make that accessible using a filter and drip bag. And
so a drip bag, for those listening in, is kind of like just a little thing with already ground coffee that has a little filter arm, so you can put it over your cup and then get a kettle. So you don't really need much equipment. It's
hot water and a cup.
And they're quite good too.
They're so good.
They're very respectable.
So good. And I think we spoke about them on the pod recently, actually.
And with coffees like you're using, that's like their best purpose, really.
So for us, we're doing a Maypop. I think we're going to do the Maypop culture in there. So another co-ish fermented coffee, so a pre-yeast coffee. So it's like a passion fruit. Like we called it passion pop, so because it tastes exactly like a passion pop, like the champagne. So for us, that's kind of the direction we're going in. And then we're going to do some gift packs as well for any coffee lovers for Christmas with probably 3 or 4 of our coffees.
Do you see coffee being your career post-swimming? So you, as I understand it, you're going to go for one more Olympic Games. Where's the next one? LA?
LA, yeah.
LA. So you're going to prepare for LA. After that, you might do a few more other comps. I don't know what your plans are. But do you think after swimming, coffee is a career for you?
Maybe. I think like for me, it's an interesting space, and I think there's a lot of growth to go in there. I think the cafe piece, and you've probably spoken about it before, but like, us as a nation growing from 19,000 coffee shops to nearly 26,000 in 3 years is not super sustainable. So I think for me, because that would be the space I'd love to go into, because, as I said before, like Nomad and Motors Coffee, like 2 of my favorite coffee shops in the world, and my local as well, Supernumerary in Salisbury in Brisbane. If anyone's listening from there, definitely go check it out.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, they're one of my favorites, and Simon does a really cool operation there. So for me, something like that would be really cool, but how that fits in and how that kind of works is, I think at the moment, watching that industry, maybe. I think for us, like this style of stuff would be cool, or ready-made drinks would be very cool.
Yeah.
To do like a ready-made rotating blend would be quite cool.
Yeah. Maybe perhaps as a big-time ambassadorial role, like we said, Luck in Coffee, if you're listening. We've got some Australian royalty here.
Who knows?
Slightly nicer on the knees.
Slightly nicer. Yeah, a touch. Do you ever look at someone like, are you across Jimmy Butler's coffee antics?
Yeah.
So were you like the big face coffee of the Olympic Village?
I mean, there was actually baristas. So Local had baristas over there. They had, I think it was 4 or 5, and they rotated through.
That was in Tokyo?
That was in Paris.
Paris, okay.
So they actually had the machine and everything over there, and they were basically positioned from about 6:30 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon every day. So I had my own stag EKG and stuff because we were there for 8 weeks. So I was like, I'm just going to do it and get a full kit and full setup. So I had the whole kettle and everything in the village. So I didn't actually use the barista very much. I was brewing filters upstairs the whole time. So for me, it was more, if someone wanted a filter, I'd definitely share it with them. But getting COVID in the village made it a little more difficult to...
So how did that go down? So you got COVID in Paris before your swim? Okay.
3 days before. So I was in the village for 3 days. So we got in on a Wednesday and the comp started on Sunday, and I got it on the Saturday. So, and once you have COVID, you're kind of out. So you're isolated. So, we have this giant building that's only Australia, like 14-story building. That's the headquarters for Australia, and all the Aussie athletes are in that building. And as soon as I got COVID, was with another swimmer who also had COVID, Tommy Neal, who we were both put in the Fiji building, the Oceania building. So for us, we were then isolated from the team as well, which, safety for everyone. But to give you a perspective of how that actually looks is like literally PCR test, which everyone would be familiar with these days. And then I had to wait outside my room. So outside the building, so I was literally sitting in a communal space with a mask on for like an hour and a half waiting for the result. Got the result back not good. COVID, had to then move all my stuff to a separate room. And then from there till the last day of racing, I was in an isolation room.
When I had COVID, I stayed home and I decided one day that I was going to do a lot of gardening when I had it the one time in 2021. And like, I actually felt fine. I'm like, well, I've got it. I don't really feel it, but I've got it.
Yeah.
But then I really was aware I had it once I finished the gardening. Because like once you do something exhausting, like that's what makes you unwell is what I found. After the swim that you did, were you just like destroyed?
Just fatigued. I mean, like, yeah, it's hard to pinpoint because like the emotional roller coaster of it is probably more draining than anything else. Like because you hit the wall and you're just like, you're elated. And then by the time you get back to the village, I got into warm down after the 2 rests. So I raced at 9:45 at night in Paris time. And then by the time I'd raced and done all the media press and then a press conference, by the time I got back in the water, it was 1:45 in the morning. Right. So like there's a nearly 3-hour window where, you know, it's just media and rolling through all sorts of bits and pieces.
Yeah, it's all a big rush.
Yeah. And then like by the time you get back to the village, you're like not deflated, but you're like excited and you want to talk to people and family and friends and support, but you're also like on cloud 9 and you know you're going to come down off that.
I'm curious to know, how does coffee affect you as an athlete? Like, are you
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from McDonald's, Popeyes, Pizza Hut, Wendy's, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a hamburger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Do you not have it before swimming? Do you have it before swimming?
Every swim, yeah.
Every swim, right. So
pretty much,
do you jack yourself up?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so for me, a pre-race routine in the morning is 1 coffee. A final swim, I always have 2.
Right. So like 2 before, how long before the swim?
So I'll wake up from a nap normally, and that will be the first coffee, like a wake-up coffee, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then the second coffee will be on the way to the pool. So I might wake up 4 hours before the race and then be at the pool an hour and a half before I race. So I'll have that second coffee maybe an hour after the first one.
So you get...
I was just going to say, for someone who has coffee so kind of often, do you still get a hit of like, does caffeine still give you a spike? Or is it more of a routine?
It's both, I think. Like I'm using other forms of caffeine as well. And like the way I've explained it to other people is like, I guess you progressively over the week probably abuse caffeine more and more because it does, you know, day 1 of a 8-day meet, you might be taking, let's say 2 to 250 milligrams of caffeine, so 2 coffees-ish. By the end of the week, you might be having like 4 coffees because it's just like, deteriorating effect, but you're trying to still get up. Yeah.
I'm at this point with my coffee drinking where like I try not to drink too much really. Like I probably only have 3 or 4 now, which a lot of people will be like, what? That's a lot. But
that's not that much.
For a barista, for a barista, it's not much. But I feel like I don't need it to do things. But often if I don't have it, I'll just get a headache. Yeah. And the headache doesn't go away until I have a coffee. Like, and that's just how it is now. And I could wean myself off it, but I run a coffee shop. So like it's
hard to.
Yeah, not going to happen anytime soon. But are you kind of the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think when I wake up on a Sunday morning in season, because I'm having a coffee as soon as I wake up, it'll be like I'll wake up from the coffee headache, not from like it sucks.
Yeah, that's hectic.
Yeah, because I'm having coffee at 5 a.m, right? Like, and then on a Sunday I'll wake up at 9 and be like, I've got a migraine-like headache.
Are you a sleep-in guy? Like, can you sleep in?
Nah.
Yeah, my whole life, and I didn't even need coffee. I'm just psycho. People listening and watching this, I'm just a psychopath. Like, I don't sleep in. I've never been a sleeping
I'm jealous.
I'm
the opposite.
It's a curse, really. Like sometimes I wish I could sleep in.
I can sleep in, but it's more like I'll wake up and then I'll go back to sleep.
I cannot. I'm way too jacked up on Mountain Dew, just naturally as a person. Like I don't need coffee. It's kind of like, in a way, like I don't feel the effects of it. Like I was saying, like I
had a coffee first thing this morning when I got on the plane and then fell asleep. So I probably don't feel the effects of coffee.
See, I can do that as well, but I've never been a sleep-in guy. Like I wish I could sleep in. I think I could count on both hands the amount of times I've woken up after 9 a.m. in my life.
Yeah.
Like,
it's wild.
We did a video, Mole kind of put it to us, called the Nappuccino, which is like you have a coffee and like it puts you to sleep. Like it puts you into that.
My favorite is the coffee nap. So like during the day, I'll often have a coffee. If I'm like flat out, have a coffee, and then it's like a 20-minute nap. Like I'll scull an espresso or whatever, and then 20-minute nap, and the coffee kind of wakes you up. And it's like the best.
Oh, you time it.
Yeah. So like you're waking up as you're like bouncing back. So you like fall asleep before the caffeine hits, and then you're waking up as you're coming out of it. It's the best.
But it's that dial in the morning, and everyone ought to try this listening to the podcast or watching the podcast. And I even invite you might not have experienced it, is like the dial-in sessions. That's when you go into the shop and you prepare all the coffees, and you have to kind of tweak the recipes. Believe it or not, there are recipes to get them tasting as good as you can. And that hour in the morning is just golden for me. Like, and you'd get it at home, but just, when you get it with milk, you get it with espresso, you get it with filter, it's the best. And like after that, I don't really drink coffee for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Getting an espresso machine, a nice espresso machine, was like the worst thing for my coffee consumption, because now I grab literally will have a filter and an espresso or a milk base like at the same time. Like I just doubled my intake.
What machine do you have?
Micro.
Oh, La Marzocco. Oh, yeah. You've got it going. And you drink milk as well? Yeah, you had a couple in my shop the other day.
Yeah, I did. They were very nice. I finished that bag.
Which one was that?
The strawberry cheesecake.
Strawberry cheesecake blend. It's a bit of a killer, isn't it?
You had to try that one.
Yeah. You've had it as well, yeah? Well, you had the Lamington. Lamington. Have you tried the Lamington? Did I make you the Lamington?
Yeah, the bounty taste.
Yeah. That's been a baller at the shop.
I was saying, like, just going back on that like specialty coffee kind of tip, that he should do it in house, but like fully commit. So it's like similar to like a mocha. So you go like chocolate, and then make get a double shot of like the Lamington blend, then make it with coconut milk, dust it with a little bit of chocolate and some like raspberry, like full commit to the Lamington.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd go off on TikTok too, surely.
Yeah.
Sure. You could do the cracking cup kind of thing.
Yeah.
Pop.
What do you think of the cold drinks revolution? Like, see, I'm in two minds about it. Like, I love the creativity. I love how the community can get around it a bit, but I also kind of miss when people just enjoy coffee.
Yeah, I think it's very American.
It is.
Like, it's that Starbucksy culture, right? Like, that's slowly coming into here, and we're seeing it. And like, I'm all for cold brew and that interesting nitro space, like cold brew and nitro. I love that space, but adding stuff to the drink for me is a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of what turns me off. Matcha, I had a hot take at the beginning of the year where I said matcha sucked.
It's everywhere now.
And now I like it. No, even I like it. It's like a soy matcha. And it has to be with soy milk. I mean, like matcha with soy
and
milk.
Strawberry go well together, though.
Well, the strawberry matcha, that's kind of a thing these days.
Yeah, matcha, strawberry Kit Kat, they have that in like Japan, and it's unreal.
Wicked. I was about to say that actually kind of answers your kind of news point before, like Starbucks is kind of on the decline. That might come down to the fact that every cafe now needs and has quite a high level specialty drink that's on the Starbucks level, but it's quicker, it's like better in quality because there's only one of them or two of them. It's not like 50 to choose from.
I've got a question for both of you off the hook, right? Starting with you, Zach. If you're the CEO of Starbucks, how are you fixing it?
Simplifying it, I think. Like, just literally strip back the menu of what you can have. And I think like, because what they do well is this quickness and the scale of it is,
Well, it's what they should be doing well. It's not what they're doing well at the moment. And I think that's a good point to anyone thinking about opening a cafe. Just keep your menu concise. You'll actually do a lot better. Liam, how are you fixing it?
I reckon I'd go down the same route, but I would take it more on the approach of like McDonald's around the world, like internationally. It's like, depending on where you are, the menu kind of reflects either the city or the space that we're in. And there's kind of the winners. So it's like, you go to Japan, you get a teriyaki, whatever it is. It'd be similar. So you come to Melbourne, it's like Starbucks has their Starbucks Mont Blanc, or there's the espresso martini frappe, or like whatever it is. So it's like the winners of the city, and then you go around the world, and it's like there's a reason for going, instead of going there and having like a diluted bad version that's kind of similar around the world. Like, they're like the champion playlist of that space.
I went into Starbucks the other day, and there's like 12 different canisters for cream guns and stuff like that. It's like, man, I can't even operate 2 of those. We're getting these teenagers to make all these drinks.
I think it's diluted, right? Like there's so much choice that you're just like, man, I just don't want to even go there.
Overwhelmed by choice.
There's no personality whatsoever, because it's like they're like, we can have whatever you want. I'll get 2 pumps of this, 1 pump of that, on ice, cold foam, blah, and you're like, bored.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too much choice.
The specialty coffee stuff now, and I've got a question I've wanted to ask. I think I've asked you before. Will you compete in a Brewers Cup or barista competition in the future? You're a competitive guy. You're a systematic guy. You're an Olympic gold medalist. Will you become Australia's next Brewers Cup champion one day?
The Brewers Cup definitely interests me more than the barista style stuff.
Yep.
I think, it definitely interests me, and I think for the brand as well, it would be cool to get to that point where we could compete and do some really cool, interesting coffee. And I think, I know I'm still, although I have a good knowledge base of specialty coffee, it's still I feel like I have a lot more to learn before I'd actually get into that.
The industry needs someone like you competing. And I've said this to you, and I think Adam Zampa, Australian cricketer, is another good example. Like, we need someone that's got a bit of a profile to come in and compete in one of these competitions to A, let you know what it is, but B, lift the whole thing up.
Yeah.
The coffees, you look at a sport like pickleball. Pickleball it's taken off. And it's pickleball. It's like a small tennis racket tennis. And hats off to them. They've grown the sport, done really well with it, got major sponsors. It's growing all around the world. Fantastic. It'll probably be an Olympic sport one day. And then, maybe. But it's like, why can't we do something with coffee? And it's that, strangely enough, I actually watch Pokemon World Championships as of 1 month ago. It's a very niche thing, but it's very popular, and people do very well out of it. There's prize money, and it's well run, all that sort of stuff. Coffee competitions in Australia, I think we could lift the quality of it up, the way it's run, and having people like you join, I think would be a wonderful thing. So my invitation to you,
you're throwing down a challenge.
I challenge you. I double dog dare you. Compete in a Brewers Cup competition.
I think you're right in that kind of tip. It's like there's so many, you look at any esports or stuff like that, like these kind of really niche but absolutely thriving communities that, it's like why that there should be a platform that is celebrated to that capacity as well,
Well, billions of people across the world drink coffee. Billions. It's in every country. It's $1 billion. I think it's a $5 or $6 billion industry in Australia. Countless. Infinitely more across the world. And why not have a competition that more people can relate to? At the moment, it kind of just seems like a bit of a wanky thing, which some people do, and they don't really understand the nuances behind coffee and why it's a good thing. And we've kind of got a bad image to the public.
A bit snobby, yeah.
It appears snobby.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's really how it will be forever. I think more people are getting into it, and they kind of understand, well, actually, this is good. I like it. I want to see what other people are doing to improve my own game.
It's the CrossFit of the
it's the CrossFit of
the drinking
of the culinary arts. But I truly do feel like that. And someone like Jimmy Butler, if he ever decides to compete, that will lift the whole industry up.
Yeah, it would.
And he's got the resources to get the coaching to be able to do it well.
Oh yeah. And it'd be interesting to see how that would translate, and whether that's the thing. A lot of these esport, all those pieces, or cricket, pickleball. I think cricket probably has more of it, especially taking off in the US. It has the entertainment. So for me, it's in order for a comp to take off, how do you swap it from that snobby or nicheness of people who just love coffee and love everything behind coffee, to something that your average punter could flick to a Channel 7 or Channel 9 or whoever took it on board, and watch it and get behind an Aussie or get behind their local.
And this is the thing, like we were talking about the innovation wave of coffee, and that's kind of going to be the biggest component of that will be in people's homes. So more people drinking coffee, of course they'll take an interest in it. I think we just need to have that sort of level of competition and appeal to competition to drive that whole thing up. And
do you think they need to reformat the style of comp? Because I love the AeroPress where you get a bean and then you're asked to get the best out of that. And then submit a recipe. Because to me, that's way more of a competition because it's the same thing. Like the Olympics, for example, you're in the same pool, swimming the same stroke, abiding by the same rules. It's not, you're not advantaged because your roastery is better resourced and get X, Y, Z bean.
There's an idea of that. I think there's a few different options. One could be like, what if there's 10 coffees to choose from? And it's kind of like a MasterChef, challenge where you've got to go pick your ingredients or whatever. What if you pick from one of 10 different coffees? You've got X amount of time to calibrate and go into it. I kind of like the idea of being able to go and source your own coffee and, that could take you at world's length. You could have a role in experimenting and presenting it. But, like you're right, there is a bit of challenge. We have a compulsory round in Brewers Cup, which is, everyone effectively gets the same coffee, and that's got a lot of weight in deciding who the winner is. I think there's enough to work with what we currently have. I think we just need to better make it appealing to the public. That's live streaming it. That's kind of profiling who our stars are, who the competitors are before the event. There's a whole lot that can be done there. And then, of course, getting Olympic gold medalists to
a couple others, maybe.
A couple of others. Get Jimmy Butler and get Zamps in there as well.
Sorry, I was just going to go on that. I was just thinking about there's a bit of a disconnect from the format. Like you said, it's there's someone that creates something, has an incredible a team with a whole heap of tech, and then there's a judging board, and it's like you get taken along the story for the brewer, but then the judges kind of they just sit there, go through it, experience it, and keep cool, and then make their marks. I reckon if they showcased their experience, the judges actually broke down and verbalized and unpacked their palate. And if the judges were kind of the other way around, the brewers were the judges, you know what I mean? They go through and they're like, oh, this is what I taste. I'm breaking down what I'm tasting and all those things.
It'd also be interesting for then, for example, esport, why it's popular is because you can go play the same game, right? For me, that's been the piece I haven't enjoyed about Brewers Cup is I'm never going to taste that coffee. I'm never going to have the access to that or have the access to what they have, the way they've exactly brewed it with the water recipe and everything. It's I'm never going to be able to get that out of the coffee.
For me, competition's a waste of time if you don't share your coffee afterwards. Yeah. Just how can the public actually verify you as a champion? There's a few judges behind a room, they get to try it and yada, yada, yada. People need to be able to try your coffee. And, if you're a winner, this year's winner's Niccol, he's in Indonesia, you might only get to try it if you're in Indonesia, unless he does a tour. But Jack Simpson did a great job of it in Australia. He had some he had some opportunities for customers to come and try it. Fantastic. I think it needs to be the standard.
And then Carlos and Simon toured Australia and you're able to go to a ticketed, literally it was 15 people in the room and they did 2 nights in each city basically. And showed how they got to the recipe, and that was really cool. And that was a big educational piece for me, who was like in coffee, but not quite at that understanding. And then for them to go through the water recipe, well, Simon didn't go into the water recipe, but he went through pour patterns and different all different brewers, and basically he brewed it in front. They both brewed it in front of us in different brewers and said taste this, and taste the difference between X and Y and grind size. And for coffee people, it was really cool experience to showcase that comp and how they actually landed on a recipe. Because you look at a comp and it's not accessible because you're how did they get there?
And I think you're right. Doing things like that, I think a lot more content around it would be good as well. I think that there's myriad ways, and we're working on parts of that with the podcast as well. Trying to, even though we have a podcast now, to me is value to lots of people. This is free. You can just log onto it on YouTube, Spotify. Share it with 2 friends, by the way. Do us a favor. But it's a free resource for people to learn a bit more about coffee. And we'll have some more informative things to come in the future.
I was going to say, can you imagine MasterChef? Like, you know, we get taken along their whole preparation of the food, everything, their ups, their downs, all that stuff. They walk up to the thing and then the judges just look at it and walk away. I think that, you know, you need the person there to like go through it and then go, oh my God, experience it and why I want to, you know, like when you're saying it's like the worst part is that we'll never be able to try those things. But at least we're like, we have someone try it. Like today, your coffee is incredible, right? We had this like watermelon-y, juicy, like funky situation. I cannot wait to like one day try that. That would be insane. For the exact same reason, you know, like we're getting the human side of the experience, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've got 2 more segments to move on to. I want to ask what your concluding remarks on coffee before we enter the next 2 segments.
I mean, I'm excited for the future of innovation of coffee and seeing a lot of wine and whiskey or alcohol processes being pulled over into the coffee industry. It's really cool to see. Like our coffee for Christmas, we're changing up our blend to a rum barrel-aged coffee.
Ooh.
So it's a very Christmassy. So
where does the consumer get onto some of that?
So that'll be online from probably December till Jan.
What's the website?
sapidusroast.com.au.
sapidusroast.com.au.
One more time, what was it?
sapidusroast.com.au.
Okay,
cool, great.
Oh,
Thank you.
I love that. And you should. We just had the watermelon sour. That was unbelievable, wasn't it, Liam?
That was delicious.
We're going to move into the next segment, which is rapid fire questions. So over 1 minute, I'm going to ask you 20 questions. You need to answer them as quickly as you can. Are you ready? Yeah?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Hey, it's just questions.
Hit the button.
And your time starts now.
2-pack or Biggie?
B.
McDonald's or Burger King?
McDonald's.
Espresso or filter?
Filter.
Instant or McDonald's?
McDonald's.
Xiaolong Bao or ravioli?
Xiaolong Bao.
Favorite Pokemon?
Pikachu.
Dua Lipa or Sabrina Carpenter?
Dua Lipa.
Favorite Star Wars film?
Return of the Sith.
Favorite coffee shop?
Motors in Paris.
Best coffee you've had this year?
Maypop.
Okay, if you could be an Olympian in another sport, what would it be?
Golf.
MJ or LeBron?
MJ.
Greatest Australian swimmer of all time?
Or Kieran Perkins.
Metallica or AC/DC?
AC/DC.
Favorite cocktail?
Gin and tonic.
Who is your coffee idol?
Carlos.
Red pill or blue pill?
Blue pill.
Favorite coffee machine?
Lana Micro at the moment.
Favorite brewer?
Too slow.
I am curious to know, what's your favorite brewer for brewing filtered coffee?
I'd have to say the Origami.
Origami. Yeah, we use them at the shop. They're quite good.
I think it's just versatile.
It's like it's a brewer, but it's got kind of like it's in a zigzag pattern. So there's like airflow. There's holes that kind of provide greater airflow, and you can use multiple. So
different types of filters. Like you can use. I love using it with Kalita filter because flatbed and
Kalita wave filter
is unreal in it.
Yeah,
as in it's kind of
looks like a. What would you say it looks like?
Looks like origami.
Yeah, it looks like origami.
It looks like it's been folded up like a fan that's become a cone.
Right. Amazing.
Well, now I can't quite introduce it the same as Rowan Cook would. I feel a bit naked without him here, but we're getting into the segment, which is actually the greatest segment in all of coffee podcastery. It's time for the extra hot take with two sugars. All right, who wants to go first? You or me?
I've got one. I think we talked about it already.
Well, we haven't shared it with the listener yet. So down the barrel, down this camera, tell people, what is your extra hot take with two sugars?
I think the future of coffee is co-ferments.
Oh, there's going to be.
You might agree with that.
Well, yes, to an extent. Like, there's going to be a lot of trolls on the internet coming after you, Zac Stubblety-Cook. Elaborate.
I think it's a gateway. Let's call it the gateway drug into filter or into coffee, because I think the exciting piece of it is that you can blend it out and make it a little bit more mellow. But I think those co-ferments, or whether it's rum barrel aged or watermelon that I had from a roaster, DAC Coffee Roasters, was like one of the most incredible interesting coffees. Like you think that tasted like watermelon. This was like literally tasted like you're drinking candy. It was unbelievable. I've never tasted a coffee like that. Even as milk espresso, it was wild. So for me, it's like it is that gateway into showcasing to people this is what coffee can taste like.
I think, yeah, and this is the kind of the debate that's raging in the industry right now because a lot of people think it should be categorized differently. And to an extent, I actually agree. It should. And, you know, a co-ferment coffee that's like hasn't gone through the same, I guess, strenuous production as like a geisha has to enter the best of Panama. A co-ferment does not belong in there. It just doesn't. But I do think it's worth putting in a World Barista Championship because, you know, that's not a competition of the bean, that's competition of the barista. And there's been a bit of a culture in competitions in coffee where the winner kind of gets accused of using an infused coffee, and which is a bit disappointing. So now the competition's just allowed it. You can. Having said that, if there's a judge that, you know, judges a wash Vinca Debra as lesser quality than like a passion fruit infused coffee from Colombia, like you should lose your accreditation. Of course, the wash geisha is going to be better. Like it's a more enjoyable coffee. It's a better coffee.
Yeah,
but,
it's a more pure coffee.
Yeah, it's a more pure coffee, and it probably tastes better to a lot of people as well. But like, you know, I totally agree. I think it's the future.
I think the other piece that a lot of people don't realize is like for farmers, it's more controllable. Like it is. You can co-ferment a strawberry or passion fruit consistently with every crop and it's going to taste the same, or it will get to the point where it is tasting the same. Like, because if we lean into this innovation of that in Colombia, and like that gives the industry more stability. Like, you know, we've seen
it's more repeatable.
Yeah, it's more repeatable. Like, you know, you get an extended ferment or a nice geisha, and literally it's like wine. It like depends on the weather each year, right?
Yeah, and so, yeah, like that's exactly right. Like I kind of enjoy the seasonality of that as well. Sometimes it means you got a good crop, you know. Sometimes it means you got a bad crop. But hey, to appreciate the sun, you've got to know what rain is. I'm gonna load up with my extra hot take with 2 sugars, if I may. We ready? Stop saying Ethiopian and Kenyan coffees are bad.
That's huge.
So, well, it is because
I love Ethiopian coffee.
Well, exactly. So, but there's a kind of, and you know,
the barnyard coffee.
I've kind of been a part of it myself. We're saying that, like, you know, there's been a few bad harvests for Ethiopia and Kenyan coffees, which is somewhat true. But you know, for anyone saying that this has been a bad harvest for Ethiopia and Kenya, it's like, have you been smoking? Like the coffees I've had from Kenya and Ethiopia this year are outstanding. And I think there's like a general thing. Coffee's become more expensive over the years, the green price for coffee. And I think that people haven't really stayed buying the same coffees at that price point, at their new price point. They've just gone and bought cheaper coffees. Yeah. So of course the Ethiopian or Kenyans like might not taste as good as the ones you've had previously. And the industry is becoming more popular globally, more people competing for the better coffees. So you might not see the good stuff around as much anymore. Yeah. But like to say that they're not producing good coffee anymore is just total nonsense. And like I think it's like bad for people to say for those nations' image. Like, actually, they're quite good, and we don't need to tear them down.
Ethiopia for me was like one of the coffees, like because it's naturally so funky and different. That was like always what I'd gravitate towards in the beginning of my coffee journey. I guess it's like that's what I gravitated towards was definitely Ethiopian, and then had some incredible Kenyans as well, like. More purist coffees though.
To me, like a prime Kenyan or Ethiopian as an espresso, I don't think anything beats it. Like the washed Ethiopian espresso for me is like crack. Yeah. You know? It's so good. Yeah. And just like, you know, we had some stuff this year that we bought through Melbourne Coffee Merchants and unbelievable coffee. Just washed Ethiopian. I absolutely love it. Yeah. But we just about run out of time. I know you've got to go and we've got some things to do after the pod. But if there's anything you want to say to the listener, so Sapidus Roast, is sapidusroast.com.au?
Yep, sapidusroast.com.
Sapidusroast.com.au if you want to get some red hot beans.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your concluding remarks to the listener / viewer?
try some of our coffee, enjoy it. And I think like for us, we'd love for you to try it, but also share it with people around you. Because for us, these coffees are really exciting, and whenever people try them, they are often shocked at what they can taste like, and they are a little bit different. So, jump on board and make sure you're sharing it with your community.
Absolutely. And I'm in the process of complex negotiations to try and get Zac Stubblety-Cook to come do a pop-up here in Melbourne. So
We'd love to do it.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. But thanks again for coming on the podcast. We've been really campaigning for this one. You sent me a message last week saying, or it was earlier this week, saying that you were potentially coming to Melbourne. So we jumped on the opportunity. So
in Melbourne for 12 hours.
In Melbourne for 12 hours. But
we
squeezed the podcast in. So thanks so much for your time. Thanks for bringing the medals as well. That was awesome. So,
amazing.
Awesome stories. Look forward to everyone being able to listen to this. But thanks again so much for coming. And as always,
it's just coffee.
Oh yeah, boy.
I'm excited to try that Christmas blend.
Yeah.
All these blends.
We'll have to get some. It's a shame that Rowan and the boys weren't here. Are you expecting to be